we touched upon 5G, we touched upon use cases, we talked about, well, how it is really impacting our lives today. There's a mixed response to that, but I think we are getting there. I remember one of our panelists earlier said that slow and steady, but we are going to get there.
Hello.
Now, while we are talking about 5G and we're still sort of realizing some of the benefits, the discussion that we have for today is like for 5G Advanced, and then obviously, everybody wants to know about 6G as well. So, what is 5G Advanced, and what is 5G Advanced all about, and how is it different from 6G? Maybe I'll start with Dr. Singh. Dr. Singh, would you want to tell us about, what is different about 5G Advanced, and then we'll talk more about how does it really change our lives as well.
So, when we talk about 5G Advanced or 5G and beyond, right, that we are talking about the 4 areas on focus area. Number one is, of course, we know that 5G is actually deliver much lower cost per bit compared to the 4G, right? So beyond, it is more about it continue to improve the performance, the spectral efficiency in order to further lower down the cost per bit. Then the second area is, of course, sustainability, right? We cannot be building more and more networks, right? So it's a way how to use the AI and efficiently build equipment that to move towards the sustainability, right? Then, of course, the third area is all about the supporting the new use cases. 5G now is focused on high speed, low latency, but the massive IoT part is not being addressed yet, right? So we are talking about the red cap and beyond, and the ambience IoTs, so that it enable sort of zero energy device to be plugged into this equation, right? Of course, the last part is, of course, it come down to the automation, right? How to actually make the network more efficient, right? So in Ericsson, we actually focus on these 4 areas as a sort of a pillar. Then 5G Advanced will come from the 3GPP release 18 and above before we actually reaching the 6G, and this is the 4 focus area that we are working on.
Wonderful. So, while we were still thinking about 5G, I think we're talking about some supercharged 5G with 5G Advanced coming up as well. I think one of the thoughts that come to my mind is while we are inching and moving towards this technology, what are the biggest enablers and disablers of 5G Advanced or even 6G, the adoption of that? What do you think are the biggest enablers? I would want our Julian, maybe if you want to just maybe talk about what do you think some of the key enablers that support 5G Advanced?
I'm probably not as technically astute as the other people on this panel to make this comment.
But more from a end user standpoint.
But I think, 5G and 5G Advanced is a journey towards 6G, and I think, it's necessary to bring everyone along on that journey because, it's not just about the spectrum. There's AI. There's a whole bunch of things happening in the network, and it's about, from GSMA point of view, it's important that we're bringing also along the ecosystem and enterprise, because the advanced or the use cases that are made available through 5G Advanced and will be the starter point for 6G is we actually have to take people on the journey. It's a bit like from a consumer point of view, if you handed a consumer a smartphone, took a smartphone to today and gave it to somebody 20 years ago, could they turn it on and find their way around? No. We've taken people on a journey. They've got adapted to hamburger menus and a whole bunch of other stuff. It's the same, we need to bring along the enterprise. And so from an enabler point of view, the technology is on a path. The industry is working towards the standards. And I think that's all happening in good time. But the challenge is actually make sure we bring the enterprise along, because otherwise we get to that point and we'll have all the technology, but the enterprise won't be with us.
Absolutely, and well covered. I would like to also ask Mr. Shakya, sir, what do you think, what are the biggest enablers and also what are some of the hindrances that we have in terms of the adoption of 5G Advanced?
I think most pertinent question for all of us. The most enabling aspect is the technological advancement, whether we call it the dynamic spectrum allocation, which was not earlier possible, Network slicing is another specific use case which provides the quality of service to the respective class of service. And then more than that, I would like to put the few things which are enabler as well as disablers. One of the enablers is, all of us know that 2.6 billion of the population of this world is still unconnected. So yes, they are going to be the biggest enabler. We have to reach to all of them. But at the same time, there has been divide in terms of gender, divide in terms of the digital skills or skills itself, divide in terms of the economy and of a specific country or region, the affordability of the equipments and the devices. I think they are the biggest challenges for all the telecom ecosystem, starting from the manufacturers, from the R&D experts, coming with the specific chips, reducing the carbon footprint as well. So disabler is only the inequality, if I have to sum up. Enabler is the advancements in various aspects it has taken place, to sum up.
I think let's also, have our operator team and our operator community also give their comments on what are some of the enablers and disablers. Maybe I would want to start with Mr. Gulshan. So what do you think? What are the key enablers for 5G Advanced, and if there are any disablers?
Okay, so let me start with grounds up approach. So let's not say that we have technology ready, so people should now start using it. Do the people need technology? 3G was a short-lived technology for the reason that people wanted something, data communication, which was not happening. 3G came in, could not fulfill the requirement. Does 5G do that? It's the other way around. Technology supports today, but the consumer segment probably does not, is not ready, or the device ecosystem is not ready to consume that technology that we have today. So from a consumer perspective, what we need today probably is being fulfilled by our 4G itself. But there's a large segment of consumers, which is B2B consumers or enterprise consumers, who have been left apart saying that, okay, what we have we'll give you and you start consuming. That segment has been left unserved, my opinion. Then that segment will be the biggest consumer today saying that, okay, let's get this technology called 5G now to fulfill our B2B requirements. Health sector, banking sector, e-commerce, drone, mining, defense, border security, education. These sectors are the ones, banking, which will consume this technology and provide an ecosystem for 5G to become better, serviceable, and start making revenue also, so that we can live for a longer time. That's on the enabling side. Disabling side, I think the biggest inhibitor today is the cost itself that we incur. All the new base stations have to come in. The core, for example, happily or in a good fashion, still NSA can be done. SA, you will have to have new core, but that's a little smaller part. When consumers are ready to consume millions of gigabytes or petabytes of data, there has to be a transport readiness to bring it back to the central serving node as well. You could argue we have technology which can go to the edge, but still you need transport. So I think the inhibitors, your short answer to your question is that inhibitors are the cost involved in building up transport, building up radios, getting spectrum, and then after investing this money, how do we monetize this? So economics has to serve right to become the biggest enabler for this to come in. That piece, I think, is a little slow, where we need to spend our energy on. Let's see what Airtel.
Let's hear from Saurabh as well. Saurabh, what do you think?
First of all, thanks, Kunal, for this question, and thanks to ET for setting this interesting conversation. Mostly Gulshan already covered, right? I think it's a question of you can't put the cart before the horse, right? I think just wanted to echo the same points, right? That the technology is made to serve the customer. Let me also take a step back. And in the Airtel, we actually had this customer day, and wherein almost all the employees went to meet customers. And I was traveling to some, relatively remote areas.
I've heard some very interesting experiences.
Yeah. So I think you can really see what customer really needs, right? And how does he consume? And there were panels earlier, and Prashant was really voicing this out. Is really 5G made really difference? I think it's a case of really meeting the expectation of what is the need of the customer. The need of customer could be unmet need, or it could be a latent need, which let's say the customers are not even aware of that part, right? So I would say that at least from our experience, India has done the fastest 4G rollout India has done the fastest 5G rollout in the world. And, I think the success criteria is from the report which is published by Reef Shark in terms of the digital quality life index of this, right? The India's internet quality index jumped from 15 to 16. The internet quality improvement, India in 2022 was a 67th number. In India, this was the highest improvement. So India was the number one in the world from that perspective, right? So what really it has delivered is in terms of meeting these kind of requirements, making the everyday life internet accessible and high quality. I think that's one part. If you look at open signal report, same way, right? Today, the median speed of the mobile download is somewhere about 75 Mbps. On a fixed line in India is about 76 on that part, right? So in India today, you can truly get that kind of a speed on a mobile network as you would get in a fixed line as well, right? It's not to say that there are improvements to be done in that area also, right? But that's what 5G essentially has delivered. So I would say that the huge capacity requirements are the biggest enabler, right? Then comes all these add-on, what we can call as the long tail of use cases, right? Because there is not a single use case which will cut the ice, right? There is going to be a multiplicity of the use cases. And this is what the bigger technology enabler is in 5G, right? Because you have network slicing and various other mechanism by which you can actually create a common network to serve different requirements, right? So I would say, I think Dr. Yang talk about the PPDR, for example, right? Otherwise you will build a separate network altogether, right? Today it's possible to create a common network, right? That's what, for example, in US, First Net Responder Network built by AT&T did, right? That you can create with the 5G, right? So I see that these are the biggest enabler.
Right.
And in terms of the challenges which would remain is, right, how do you actually create a commercial model out of it? I think that's the
I think
equation.
monetization continues to be the challenge. I'll request Girish to share his views. Girish, we are still, we are yet to, realize the benefits of 5G. And we are already talking about 5G Advanced and 6G. Is it really required right now, or are we just pushing it?
Yeah, I think majorly the networks are changing, and it's going to be constant change. It is not that we will be having network transformation at one type journey. It is a continuously evolving requirements based on the consumer requirements. For example, we will be moving the requirements from physical to digital world and connectivity everywhere. That is a requirement in future, because I think we have not covered the globe yet. We are yet to cover the airline industry, underwater communication, and we see that the 6G will be requiring the connectivity everywhere, and we need to meet the consumer requirements in that dimension.
So great. So definitely we need 5G Advanced and in the near future 6G as well. I would like to ask Neeraj. Neeraj, sir, tell me, how are the regulations going to support us when it comes to 5G Advanced and 6G? How are the regulations going to enable faster adoption?
Hello, good afternoon. So if operators have to deploy 5G, that means every 300 meter they have to deploy a 5G small cell. Currently they were deploying maybe at 2 or 3 kilometers. So where they are going to deploy, what are the permissions required, what are the charges? So regulation means that there should be a policy of right of way which prescribes a reasonable tariff for the telecom operators to use a pole. And which pole? For example, in Uttar Pradesh, UP, we are having 24 lakhs discom poles. So where they are located? Suppose Geo says, I want to use this pole maybe it is outside ITC, but it should have proper numbering, GPS location. So all the coordinates should be there so that they can select, and there should be a portal where they can go and they can apply for ROW at reasonable tariff. So all this is being done by the broadband mission arm of the DOT. So we have come out what are the regulation, what should be the tariff charges, maybe 100 rupees, 300 rupees. If somebody is saying 1200 or 1500 for a pole, and if you have to use hundred and thousands of pole, it is going to become unviable. So we are taking care of the right of way policy. We are taking care of the right of way portal. 5G forms have been implemented in 21 states. Rest will also be done in short period of time. Third point, we are mapping all the street furniture of the whole country on the PM Gati Shakti National Master Plan platform, so that you can just plan your street furniture network by going to this portal and choose. Maybe you select an area and it will pop up what are the kind of street furniture. You just pick up the street furniture, and the ROW applications will be submitted to the right agencies. For example, in a particular state, there may be 3-4 discoms, there can be poles of MCD or various operators. You don't know actually. You will have to go and do the physical survey as of now. But once this portal is there, mapping is there, you can come to know on this portal itself. So this is what we are doing. We are also come up with the call before using mobile application, so that while you deploy optical fiber cable, then optical fiber cable and other utility assets are not damaged. So that's what we are doing.
That's really encouraging, and it's good to hear that, Neeraj. I think let me just change the focus a little bit. I know we're talking about capex, we're talking about investments, we're looking forward to use cases. Now, what does all of this do to our environment, right? Now, coming back to our ESG initiatives, all the commitments that organizations have made globally. Julian, if I may ask you, how can the 5G advanced technology, help reduce this carbon footprint?
Sure. I think it's a very good question. I think most people in this room would know that 5G, and the more we go down up the Gs, the cost per gigabyte is coming down. And so all in all, it'd be great to put everybody on 5G Advanced tomorrow. But of course, that's not possible because we have legacy networks and things to deal with. But I think one of the key enablers of 5G Advanced is around the ability for the operator to allocate and use the spectrum in a more dynamic way based on the load. And of course, over time, people will migrate to 5G and more of the traffic will move to 5G. But at the moment, you've got 2 and 3 and 4G networks running. And so for an operator to be able to use dynamic spectrum sharing and be able to flex the network, obviously allows it to be more efficiently deployed. And I think, on the policy side, there's a lot of things that can also be done, making sure there's an adequate spectrum available so you can, optimize the density of towers, things like that. And some of the technology, obviously in 5G, the use of AI and things, being able to power up and power down and, directional antennas, all those sort of wonderful things which people on this panel can talk a lot more about. It makes it a far more efficient technology. And so it's not only about mobile operators being able to improve their cost per gigabyte, but it is around their carbon footprint per gigabyte. And that is also, as mobile technology has become the foundations of our digital economy, you are then enabling the whole economy to enjoy those benefits. And through cost of gigabyte coming down, carbon footprint per gigabyte coming down, it is helping all industries through digital transformation improve their carbon footprint and comply with their ESG ambitions and vision.
Absolutely, and technology is the way to do that. Mr. Shakya, your views on how you think 5G Advanced and in the near future 6G can help us reduce the carbon footprint?
Thank you. I think, again, a very pertinent question, because all the time now we are listening in the various media regarding the global warming. And as the responsible citizen and the stakeholder, it's our duty to make the future safe. So how the new technologies, whether it's a 5G, 5G Advanced or the upcoming 6G, are going to take care of that. So one of the things indirectly mentioned by my co-panelist here, that is, we are going to have the transmitters, or in normal terminology, we used to call it the towers. In India, I think the most commonly used. You find lot many antennas put there over, and there is a continuous power requirement for the equipment which is radiating continuous power. Since the such base trans systems or trans receive systems are going to be smaller, the power requirement of individual nodes is going to be very low. To the extent that probably these can be made even by the renewable energy of the solar in the country like India, where we have lot of, you say, the sun sign available all across the year except the few months. So that is the way very design of the low capacity requirement nodes are going to help in reducing the footprint with respect to the carbon. Again, the technology has also given the advantage of having dynamic spectrum allocation we just made as a point. Currently, if satellite is going to use some transmission, the airwaves are all the time available in that specific band, so the radiation is continuous. Similarly, the spectrum requirement for the say IMT or for private radio or anything, there are continuous radiations going on in the network. With the possibility of having the dynamic spectrum sharing, what we say is the same spectrum we are utilizing for the various kind of the servicing. So it may be possible that the spectrum which I was using for the say broadband communication or for the broadcasting communication could be utilized for the emergency communication. It could be utilized even for, I should say, the meteorological requirements. So if the same spectrum is going to be utilized by the multiple entities, probably the rate of transmission is going to be dynamic to the extent that specific signals are required. So there is no multiple simultaneous say transmissions. So that way, that kind of the feature are also going to reduce the footprint. And surely nowadays, lot of work is being done on the green telecommunications. India has already come out with its policy. My friend from the DOT is there, who has issued very good guidelines in terms of what is the requirement of contribution of the green energy into the network and not be dependent on the conventional. So I think these are the things which are going to help us. Thank you.
Absolutely. Very well covered there, I think. And therefore, it completely supports the ask for investments. And I think that's where I move to my next question. And I would request some inputs from Mr. Neeraj on, what kind of investments do you think are required in this space? We know that, the use case are relevant. We know that we need this to, reduce our carbon footprint overall. But at the end of the day, it requires investments. And I will go to our, operator representatives as well. But would like to hear from you on the investments.
So all the operators are here. First of all, you raise the point of investment is required. And if the investment is required, then all the operators should cooperate with each other and share the infrastructure like they are sharing the telecom towers. But I don't think any one of them is sharing. Maybe exceptions can be there. The optical fiber cable infrastructure which is there, we have been talking to all of them to share the infrastructure so that they can save money for 5G and 6G. But that is yet to happen. So what we have done, we have basically mapped all the telecom infrastructure of the public sector, the BSNL, MTNL, Power Grid, etc. on the PM Gati Shakti. Around 12 lakh route kilometer of OFC is available there, which can be used by these operators. Plus, we are also emphasizing on all the other agencies, the smart cities, the NHLML, who is laying ducts and optical fiber cable along the NHAI, to come out with ducts which can be shared by the telecom operator, so that sharing can reduce the overall charges. And we are also emphasizing on them to come out with a reasonable tariff. We are also emphasizing on the power grid to make available the OPGW, which is overhead for the far-flung areas, at also reasonable tariff, because they say they will provide only the bandwidth, which is quite costly. So we are supporting the telecom operators. And as far as this further cost sharing is concerned, apart from the rollout of 5G, we will have to create the infrastructure, the use cases also in sharing made. Like we came out with PCO when everybody was not able to afford the landlines. So we said that this is the point wherein everybody can come and call. Similarly, we have to have use cases, all the bundle use cases in an aggregate manner, maybe tele-education, telemedicine, e-governance services like CSC model, all at one place, capacity building, and we can provide the bandwidth so that telcos demonstrate how this 5G or 6G can be used, or FTTH can be used. If we are not able to showcase how this can be used, then the common man does not know what he will do, because he doesn't understand 5G, 6G or 7G. He wants what benefit we can provide to him. Can we save his cost by consultation on telemedicine or transportation, or his ward need not travel to city to take tuitions? So what we can do for him? So he is transparent for all this. Thank you.
So I think I'll just request Mr. Gulshan to step in here. So why, do you think this is not happening? What is why are these investments not happening?
So when I hear investments, there are multiple rings that go into my mind. So Kunal, I think I touched upon investment side of it. How do we monetize? How does the ROI come in? From the north side of the network, saying that, okay, I'll build, today I'll give an example to you. I enable a network platform which gives opportunity to all the OTTs to come in and consume. You pay about $800 to Netflix, you pay $600 to Prime, you pay so much money to everybody. But when it comes to the enabler who's giving you the service for all of these, you pay only 190, 180, 160 rupees, right, a month. So where do we stand? Are we there? So I buy a spectrum, I deploy the network, I have people, I spend money on power, space, everything. I manage the network. On top of it, if somebody is using the network, an OTT who makes money, by the way, the network data has to be interfered and seen who's doing what. Even that capability of interception has to be built by me. So where do we stand in the value chain? I think time has come where we have to rise in the value chain, saying that this enabler being used for so many services has to be well respected, has to be well paid for. That's on the north side of it. How do we make money? How do we make revenue? How do we invest into the network? See, ultimately it's economics. Unless the network is making money for you, nobody is going to run charity in the world. So it has to be self-standing network which makes money for its own and starts getting due in the industry. That's on the north side. I'll also touch on the south side, where we can optimize our own resources. So it's not that you pump in billions of dollars and say, now the network should run. I have to optimize my resource as well. And there I'll touch upon, I'll take 2 minutes on that. On three, while you were talking, so there are three axes of this entire discussion. One is the architectural shift has to happen, which has happened largely when we used to have 3G data services, then 4G, 5G. We have flat kind of an architecture, where we're not investing too much money into the network components now. So it has become flat. But still, you see, you have a mobility piece which makes a network. You have an enterprise piece which makes a network. You have now NB-IoT or IoT coming in, which makes its piece of network. Why can't we converge all three? Why can't I have a converged network for all three to share the service and give it to? You talked about operator sharing. Forget about operator sharing. Within operator, we have multiple networks coming. So I think the architectural shift which is happening now has to go towards merging these components to save my cost as well. And then, as I said, there has to be revenue share done by other people. The third component which I will touch upon is architecture is done, revenue is done, monetization is done. Our colleagues in the vendor community has to do their bit as well. Now, for example, I'll just quote one example. We use 12, 14, 16, 18 core cloud network for our core applications. Now we're coming with 24 core, 32 core, 64 core. Why can't I use it in my existing network? Why can't I spend millions of dollars on cooling my equipment? There has been a liquid cooling concept going on. So those things, I think they have to come in as well, because if the consumer increases the consumption from 100 MB to 2 GB to 10 GB a day, I need to also evolve with my platforms according to that. I cannot say that old archaic kind of a platform will keep serving 10 times more. Now for 6G, you said, Julian talked about 6G. The clear directive given was that 6G should offer 10 times more throughput at half the kind of resources being used. How can you do it? Is it practical? So I think the vendor community who's bringing architecture changes also has to work on the platform changes now. In future, you will see millions of gigabytes being used by the consumers, which are probably non-productive data. Only some bytes would be productive. If you have a summer house somewhere, something goes wrong, that particular 2 minutes video is important for you. So I need to bring that data to the edge itself, saying that I do not need to spend money to bring it back to my whatever core location. So how do I manage this at the end? So I think architectural-wise, platform-wise, we need to solve all these puzzles, and it's a gradual path. We cannot solve it today.
Sure. So two keywords I picked up: economics and vendors. I'll come to Dr. Singh in a moment, but before I, ask Dr. Singh his comments, sort of, is the economics working?
Okay, let me try and, probably answer this a little differently, Kunal, right? Because, I think we need to probably think differently in this case, right? As far as Airtel is concerned, right, I would say that we have already made massive investments into the network. And the result I just shared in terms of what is the improvement in the digital quality life index and the speed of internet in India, right? It would not have been possible without those investments. So the investments in network, investments in terms of making the backhaul capacities, I think that has really gone through, right? I think there is another type of investment which is taking place, right? And sometimes it's really not called out in that manner, right? And just to add to what Gulshan said, it is the investment of resources, which is in terms of human manpower resources, in terms of the R&D and looking at the new avenues which we are essentially have to come out, right? Because the new use cases or the new applications do not just appear like this, right? And I think the government of India actually took a bold step of setting up 100 use case labs. And we are working with several premier institutes to look at how these new use cases, monetization opportunities could essentially come in, right? This is also, so time and resource, they are also investments into this piece. I think as a industry, we need to, when voice was there, the industry did a lot of innovation to look at how the plain voice and SMS could be used to create a plethora of vast services. When the 4G came in, then not the telcos, but the application players created an entire set of industries built on this platform, right? I think when the 5G comes into picture, we again have to go back, collaborate, work with different ecosystem players. I think that's the kind of investment probably which will continue to be needed. And we are doing a lot of experiments with the different stakeholders into that part. And I'll just take 30 more seconds, Kunal, and just to, you talked about the 5G Advanced. 5G Advanced is nothing but the continuation of the technology, and the networks are getting ready. They will, as and when most of the standard works really gets finished onto that part. And in sometimes, some part of 5G Advanced is essentially reducing the capabilities of 5G, right? And, this is very interesting that when we call red cap devices. Red cap is reduced capability, right? Because in the beginning, everybody created, this phenomenal network called 5G that you realize that it becomes expensive, or sometimes the capabilities are not needed. So some elimination of capability has been done also. I'm just to give the perspective, right? There has been improvement in terms of various capability, but to fit various use cases, there was also a need felt to say that, okay, maybe we don't need it, let's take it out, right? So, the entire gamut, so we need to think more end-to-end, which is happening, and I think that's what probably is the kind of investment which probably will be needed.
So definitely investments will be needed, and we talked about our vendor community. I think I would like to have Dr. Singh step in to talk about, we now understand the importance of 5G Advanced. We understand how it's going to help us reduce our carbon footprint, and we also know that this technology has to change. How soon do you think, Dr. Singh, we can actually experience 5G Advanced in India?
So 5G Advanced is like a continuation of 5G, right? So even though officially 5G Advanced is defined as 3GPP release 18, but some of the good things that, like for example, the rate cap, which is scaled down from 100 megahertz to 20 megahertz, come down to 5 megahertz, right? The whole objective is to sort of, after 5G achieve the best cost per bit, now is the shift of focus to reduce the cost on the handset, on the CPE and the devices, right? And RedCap is actually one of the good thing, right? So even though it is 3GPP release 18, but as soon as it is standardized, I think within 6 to 12 months, when it is standardized, it's probably by end of this year and beginning of the next year, 5G-Advanced will actually start to appear 1 or 2 functionalities in the market already.
That's quite encouraging. End of this year, early next year. I know with India growing at 8%, I'm sure the economics will also work out. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in today. A very, very interesting panel discussion and some interesting insights as well. Thank you.